So over the last few months, I visited several different Harley Davidson dealerships and I demoed every single Harley Davidson Softail that they have to offer in 2023. To me, it was an awesome experience and I wanted to share a few things that I learned from that experience. So let's get going. When I was in the market for my first Harley Davidson, I was just really honestly overwhelmed with all of the different models that they have based off of a single frame, right? And currently within the Softail lineup, there's about 8 different models. I think this number has slimmed down a little bit over the last few years, but even then I remember asking myself, like, why does Harley have all of these models based off of the same frame? Aren't they just really the same thing, but just with a few different window dressings? And I asked myself the question, are they really that different? The answer is yes, and to a lot of you, it might be pretty obvious, but to me, I thought it was just a gimmick. Back then, I was thinking, surely there can't be that much of a difference between a street bob and a fat bob, or a fat boy to a breakout. But boy, I really was wrong. Just changing up the seats, the tires, the rake, mid controls versus forward controls, drag bars, versus mid-bend bars, it makes each bike have such a unique characteristic. Yes, they all share some commonalities, but if you're in the market for a Harley Davidson Softail, I think you'll be surprised at how each bike rides and feels. The more I test rode all of the different variations of the Softails, the more I was convinced that each Softail sort of serves a unique purpose. And I think every rider will be able to find a Softail that kind of speaks to their needs and wants. So speaking of variances, some models will have the 117 like the Breakout versus the 114. So yes, the 117 with the upgraded cam feels way different than the 114 with the stock cam. This guy is a bat out of hell.
What bike is this? Is this the Breakout?
The Breakout. I was quite surprised myself. Again, I thought this was another gimmick, like how much of a difference can 3 cubic inches really make a difference? But yeah, those 3 inches make a huge difference. That's what she said. Yeah, the Breakout 117, the Lowrider S, and the ST with that 117 actually feel like a modded 114. I have the 2020 Lowrider S with the Stage 2, and to be honest, they're very even at this point, even though I dropped in a new cam and all that. Yes, so the engine on the 117 is louder to me, and there's a lot more feedback through the handlebars, and overall, it's just a more visceral experience. It makes you want to ride them more aggressively because of the power band, and if you've only tried the M8 114 Harleys, do yourself a favor and go ahead and test out a Harley with a 117 motor. You'll be surprised at how different they feel. I think they really did a great job on that 117 motor. So we all have our biases, right? Like before testing out every Softail, I definitely had my biases. I was in favor of certain models that appealed to me purely based off of like predominantly looks. The Street Bob, Fat Bob, Lowrider S were certainly my favorites before the test demo rides. And, to be honest, I didn't really care for the classically styled looks, the classically styled Harleys like the Fat Boy, the Heritage, and the Breakout. I'd like a more modern looking Harley with the West Coast styling, and to some degree I still do. However, after testing out all of the different models on the Softails in 2023, I'm singing a different tune. One of my favorite Softails now is actually the Fat Boy. Just because of how comfortable it was to ride, and I felt like it really fit me, and the looks over time, it also just really grew on me. The same thing for the Heritage. I absolutely hated the look of that bike, but after testing it out, it's by far the most comfortable Softail in the lineup, and I began to respect the Heritage a lot more. So all that to say, have an open mind and be prepared to break your biases when you demo a Softail. When I test rode the Heritage, I was like, man, I don't like the look of this bike. After I test rode it, I was convinced that if I were to ever go out of state, out of my home state, and needed to rent a bike, it would be the Heritage because it was extremely comfortable and it has bags and it rode so smoothly. I thought that if you wanted to do long distance touring, that a bagger was like a must, right? But after demoing out the Softails, I know that that's not true. To me, the Heritage is proof enough that the Softail line is good enough to be able to do touring. And plus, you also have less weight with the Softail versus the bagger, which I think is a big plus in my column. Okay, so I've been giving a lot of praise to the Harley Softail line, but by no means is it perfect. I wanna share like an even-keeled response to this, right? So the one knock I would say about Softails is that they're really lacking against the competition in terms of technology. Like if you look at Indian motorcycles, for example, a lot of them are coming out with, riding modes and infotainment system. Well, maybe I wouldn't call them an infotainment system, but that digital cluster that has navigation and Bluetooth, which to me are starting to become more of table stakes rather than like a nice to have feature or a premium feature. If I'm being honest, I'm not sure if Harley will ever add those kind of tech features on the Softail line. As they just added cruise control as of this year, I think, to a lot of their Softail models. But they still command that premium price tag. But if I'm being honest, they lack the premium features that typically accompany the premium price tag. So Harley Davidson, in terms of, maybe this is a 2-for-1, but lacking in technology and for what they seem to offer on paper purely based off of specs, it is priced a little bit higher than, say, the competition. This last point, I would say, is a little less about the Harley Softail line, but I wanted to throw this in there because I was able to go to a lot of different Harley Davidson dealerships to demo different bikes. I feel like I've got a pretty good handle and a pretty good experience overall, right? I just wanted to plug Harley Davidson for a second here. I know you guys are going to call me a Harley Davidson fanboy, but I've done a lot of demos over the past 12 months, and I can confidently say that Harley does a pretty good job of putting on these events. Usually you'll have food and drinks available throughout the demo day, and it's a pretty laid-back process. So for example, during the Kawasaki demos, I had to take several breathalyzers before I could even get on a motorcycle. But Harley doesn't require all that. They're just there to have a good time, demoing different bikes, demoing different Harleys, which I really appreciated. Plus, most of the Harley demos that I've been to, the routes are varied, and the demos are long enough for you to get a really decent sense of how the bike rides and how the different features on the bike. Some demos for other manufacturers that I've been to are like 15 minutes, which is barely enough time to even get out of the parking lot. And another great thing is that if you miss a demo, usually the Harley demo truck will loop back around and visit that same dealership, or they'll go to a different dealership that's like 5-10 miles away. And usually you'll have a Harley Davidson dealership that's close enough where you can go in case you missed the first one. So there's plenty of opportunities to get a demo in if you want. Alright, so those are all of the things that I learned during my time demoing different Softail models, with the caveat that I did not get to demo the Softails, the standard, because they didn't have them available. The biggest takeaway for me is that I think these Softails were intentionally designed, right, to give you a feature or to give you a sense of riding sense that maybe a different Softail might not offer, right? I would say if you're looking for a Harley Softail, go in with an open mind. Try out as many different Softails as you can, because you'll be surprised at what you might like. The little minor differences between forward controls, mid controls, seat height, the different types of seats, lean angle, like I mentioned, they all make such a big difference. I was very, very surprised at how much of a difference it made in just like pure enjoyment and riding feel, things of that nature. All right, well, that's enough for me today, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, I'll see y'all later. Peace.